Hi, I'm Masood from the Infosys Knowledge Institute, and I'm joined by Per Kangru from VIAVI. Per, nice to meet you, and thank you for joining us. Please tell us a bit about VIAVI and your role there.
My name is Per Kangru. I work in VIAVI. I've been working in the strategy office, and now I'm the head of technology for our AIOps solution. I'm doing that in a company which is VIAVI, which is really a solution company for test and measurement, assurance, and making sure that technology works, and how that technology moves from the life cycle of development, deployment, operations, optimization, and then making sure that we can then, replace it with the next generation technology. So 6G today is being worked on as we're now operating and optimizing 4G, 5G.
So tell me, what is the problem that VIAVI solves for your customers, and who are your customers? Are they carriers? Are they network infrastructure businesses?
Yes. So we service a whole ecosystem from the equipment vendors. It doesn't matter whether it's the 4G, 5G radio vendors, it is core network vendors, optical vendors, and so on and so forth. We service all of them in their life cycle of developing, testing, bringing that technology to market. Then we service the service providers as they're testing and evaluating the vendors. They're making technology choices, vendor selections, and then we're servicing as they're deploying this, making sure that the fiber to the home can be deployed, the base stations can be operating, etc. And then we're working to operate this infrastructure. How will we make sure it works well, efficient, optimized, etc. And then in the last phases, we obviously help to make sure that the technologies which are used there can then be delivered towards enterprises, consumers, etc. And on the enterprise side, we're then helping them operate their IT networks, which often then runs on these commercial carrier networks.
So you're providing basically the tools to ensure that the network is running effectively, or to identify where the network is maybe not.
Absolutely. So inside the what we would call the day two operations, that's where we really make sure that the networks can operate well. But then for day zero, where people build a new base station, then we help to test and basically generate the traffic needed to break it, so we know where it's going to break. Since we have the tools to break anything and validate that it's going to work, we can use that in understanding and knowledge as we go to the operations phase. Is when we're now going to train an AI, which is one of the important things going forward, you need label data. How do you know when and where things going to break? Because then you can start operating it, knowing when those things break.
Speaking of AI, how is that affecting or changing the way network monitoring, testing, resilience is working?
It's actually an extremely good question, and it really takes us back to the fundamentals of what is technology here. So historically, all technology has basically been deterministic. I'm expecting that I'm sending this and I get a response in a certain way, and those things have been deterministic. But with AI, I'm starting to have a different behavior. The AI can start to behave differently, respond differently, because that's a more optimized outcome. So if you start thinking about that, it means that from a monitoring perspective, historically it's been very simple. I see this, I expect a response. If I get anything else, it's broken. Now with AI, I have to start understanding how is this network equipment now going to behave. Even when it's working well, it may be behaving slightly differently. So it means that we have to interpret what an AI is doing in order to do the monitoring properly. That means as well that when we are employing AI technologies on our side to simplify the monitoring, we have to make sure that we're training it properly to be able to monitor these new AI-driven networks. We still have some time out for that. So we're working today with the AI RAN Alliance, where when AI is deployed in the radio access networks, we're starting to see some deployment for 5G, but maybe it's going to be mainly for 6G. When it's AI operating the network and driving the infrastructure. Today we use AI to monitor, where AI can help to automate many of the tasks that humans today do. Simply put, the AI is much better in doing repetitive tasks, much quicker, much more efficient, makes less human mistakes than a human would do.
So you're using AI in some elements,
Yes.
But still learning how to apply it, I suppose, to take on more of the monitoring and understand the network and be less deterministic.
There's 2 points of it. So the technology in itself is relatively straightforward to have developed, but it's application of it that is more challenging. So if you take a network from one customer, that is slightly different from the other one. So even if we have an AI technology which we develop back home, taking it to these two different customers will need local training.
Yeah.
And that local training then needs to be adapted against what is the business processes they want to optimize. So if they want to automate certain things, how do you drive that change? And that's a knowledge management task, which is really around how do you take what has been processes which have been built over 10, 20, 30 years and transform them into automated ones. And the challenge here is a mix between how do you work with the individuals that you're now going to help automate away.
Yeah.
Which is obviously a careful balance. In many European operators, customers of ours, they have an aging workforce. That aging workforce actually realize that, I'm very proud of my job, but they know as well that very few youngsters want to go and join that type of work.
Yeah.
Which means that they're actually supportive of automating these tasks. So this is what we in the industry generally talk about as a training exercise. So any AI need labeled training data. So can we then start developing this type of labeled training data? Can we start driving that through a development process of automation models? Those automation models then turns into effective AI for that customer.
So given we're at quite an early stage of training this and understanding, is it clear what the business value is of applying AI at the network monitoring level?
The business value is very simple. It's OpEx reductions. And with those OpEx reductions comes as well a long-term revenue growth because you are actually improving the quality. So you will see less churn, and less churn obviously means more happy customers, and more happy customers generally spend more money. So initial one is business case of OpEx reductions. Those OpEx reductions come in two flavors. One of them is around, simple put, less people and more cost-effective tooling. The second one is really around that as you can start automating certain things, you can move away from some historic cost structures around how you build resilience and how that resilience costs you money in standby data centers or standby servers or spare hardware and SLA contracts. Because now when you can automate it, let me actually quote a customer of mine that said like this: but build the right resilience with the right capability to basically fail over and so on and have the right AI models to drive that. Even if my data center catches fire, I won't even call the fire brigade. I'll just let it burn out because all my applications will run in that other data center at the same time. And in that way, I don't have to have any spare parts contracts. I don't have to have any vendor SLAs and so on and so forth. That saves me a huge amount of money. So when you start looking at the business cases, when you're looking at enabling those business changes, you can save a lot of money.
So optimizing the redundancy, I suppose, because you're automating how that runs, or you're using AI that's sort of better understanding and more effectively has to make redundancy.
And that then translates into contract changes with your vendors. Because if I now don't need the vendor to be 24-hour at 24/7 standby, I don't have to pay for that contract. And every of those changes allows me to reduce my cost. And of course, a vendor will save money themselves as well because it's not free to have staff 24/7 available.
What's the sort of timeline, would you say, for this transformation from your perspective? You've explained very well, the dynamics of introducing AI and training from those people, the expertise of the aging workforce, etc. Over what timeline do you see AI being deployed?
It's not technical timeline, really. It's more a change management and people timeline, which really translates into 3, 5, 7 years. So that's the type of time it takes to change the business processes, make sure the humans can transform and basically move on into new roles, upskill, etc. So that's the sort of realistic transition timelines. If you're a complete greenfield, deploying a complete new network, you would probably be able to do it quicker because you wouldn't transition so many people from one way of working to a new one.
What is the solution and how does it work for clients in the context of VIAVI and Infosys together?
Absolutely. So the solution that we're going to bring to market here is really from VIAVI a layer doing service assurance on the network layer. So we're receiving all of the data from the network. We're collecting the data, be it from telemetry interfaces or classical SNMP interfaces, etc. We're generating KPIs. We're generating then alarms from that. Those alarms are not just the normal alarms, but it's AI-driven alarms. From that, we automate that up into an automated ticketing process up through a solution like ServiceNow that's part of the Infosys stack. That then drives through a workflow management process. Then from a VIAVI point of view, as we identified, let's take that there's broken fiber. We now identified that. We've been able to identify what's the location of this. We identified that this is a critical alarm because actually fiber that's servicing a certain number of customers. So we can actually identify the severity of this. We have a probable root cause. We would know what's the physical location of this. Now we're able, through this service now, to kick off the workflow. This workflow is then going to end up with that a set of technicians goes out to fix this fiber. As they do that, they bring along some VIAVI instruments that is then used to validate that this fiber is not working. Through the system, we can pre-configure these instruments so they can actually do all of the automated closeouts testing to validate that the fiber now meets the specifications. So once that job is done, that goes through the cloud, and now ticket is closed out, service is restored. Now everything's up and running again in a as fully automated loop as possible.
Per, thank you so much for talking to us, and I wish you all the best in the future.
Thank you. Been a fantastic opportunity to speak to you here. Looking forward next time.